You are listening to the Hiking Radio Network, where we talk the walk with shows by hikers, about hikers, for everybody.
Mighty Blue on the Appalachian Trail, the ultimate midlife crisis. Join Steve and his guests every week as he staggers from Georgia to Maine.
Hi, and thanks so much again for coming back to Mighty Blue on the Appalachian Trail, the ultimate midlife crisis. I know I keep saying this, but it's been quite a week. And to be honest with you, when you're on the trail, it's always quite a week. It's funny how these little adventures unfold and bring new things to mind, and you have to manage your hike in a different way. As you know, I've been travelling with a tramley now for over a week, well over a week in fact. And I suppose the thing that's uppermost in my mind right now is tempting fate and a question that one of our team asked earlier this week. I'm going to come back to that as the week unfolds, obviously. Our tramley's still together, though we are showing some wear, it's got to be said. And, it's been one of those weeks where problems have hit us and we've needed to address those problems, which I think everybody's trying to do right now. But before we get on to the show and the very first day, let's hear from our sponsor, Sawyer. When I hit the trail in 2014, I soon discovered that I come with the wrong water filter. Everybody else had a Sawyer squeeze. Eventually I bought a squeeze and I loved it. I'm going again this year, and top of my list of things to buy was the new micro squeeze filter by Sawyer. Like all Sawyer stuff, it just works. You can filter up to 100,000 gallons, and their full-size squeeze filter comes with a lifetime warranty. Last year, believe it or not, more than 4 million people got clean water through a Sawyer water filter. But if you think that Sawyer is just about water filters, you could not be more wrong. Nope, they supply everything to protect you, both in the backcountry and the backyard. Protect your gear and clothes as I did with their permethrin fabric treatment, which is 100% odourless after drying. With all the ticks and bugs around, this is an absolute must. They also provide sunscreens and first aid products. Find out more by visiting Sawyer.com. Thanks so much, Sawyer. We're very grateful for your support. When I left you last, we just finished an exhilarating day. It took in McAfee Knob and Tinker Cliffs, and if you remember the previous day, we'd done Dragon's Tooth. We really had a fantastic exposure to what Virginia has to offer, and we really, really enjoyed it. We'd arrived in Daleville with at least a 0 day in mind. It didn't work out quite like that, so why don't we hear what did happen in Daleville? Days 68 and 69, 0 days in Daleville. I woke up Saturday morning. I had managed to get a late checkout at Holiday Inn Express. I was going to be meeting Derek and Becca. I don't remember them. They were the couple that took their daughter Ellie on the trail a couple of years ago. Their daughter was just 12 months old, I believe, at the time. And they reached out to me and see if I'd like to come and meet them and stay at their place overnight. And I'm always very happy for that. So I was going to see them on the Saturday afternoon, because the real reason for my late checkout was because I wanted to listen to, or watch actually, on my TV, which is my phone, the Mighty Blues, my Southern United, which is my team we used to call the Mighty Blues, which is why I've got my name, versus Sunderland in the very last game of the season. My team had to win to stay up in the division. Had they not done, they would be languishing in the lowest division in the entire English Professional League, which is pretty sad, it's got to be said. And they kept me on tenterhooks the whole time, and with 4 minutes to go, we went 2-1 ahead, and we stayed in our division. So I was more than delighted, as you can imagine. So, buoyed by that, I was meeting Derek and Becca, or Derek actually later, at the outdoor retailer's place. So I went shopping for a few supplies, and Derek turned up and took me back to his home, which was great. And we went to the home place, which is this all-you-can-eat southern cooking place, and we met Becca and Ellie, his wife and his daughter. And they were so nice to me. They didn't need to, but they bought me dinner, which is very charming, as you can imagine. And I went back to their home, and I met Derek's father, Danny, and his mother, Debbie, both absolutely wonderful people. And you can see Derek so much in both the gentleness of his father and the kind of spirit of his mother. And it was a real treat to be among a family again. I really enjoyed that. I made my excuses and left at hike at midnight. I went to bed. I don't know what it is about me. I get so tired. And I'd actually had some things lined up for Sunday. We had breakfast with the Quirins. It was great. Really enjoyed that. And just hung out in their kitchen, chatting, having coffee, having pancakes, having eggs, as you do. And one of my listeners, a lady called Sarah, or Blue Canary, is going to be hiking in 2020. She has quite a few health issues, and she wondered if she could sit down and chat with me about the hike. And so I said to her, why don't we meet one Sunday lunchtime? I didn't realise she could hardly eat anything, I'm afraid. So she and I met up at this Donny D's Bagels. Well, there's no way she could have any bagels, but as you can imagine, I tucked into some bagels myself. But Sarah has mast cell deficiency, I believe it is, and she has to cope with that. It's something, even when I looked it up on Wiki, I couldn't really fully understand it, and it seems to affect everything that she eats, things that she smells, gives a real issue. So I said, this ain't going to be easy out on the trail, but none of this is impossible, and if you can manage this, you can do it. Hopefully she left with some decent advice, and hopefully she felt that it wasn't a waste of time chatting with me about it. But once we'd finished, she dropped me back at my hotel. I'd now moved, by the way, to the Super 8, having started at the Holiday Inn Express on the Friday night, stayed in Derek and Becca's, or Danny and Debbie's home on the Saturday night, and then on Sunday I was in the Super 8. And of all coincidences, one of the guys I met twice actually on the trail, 3 times on the trail in 2014 was a guy called Mike Coburn, and his name was Baseman. We just hit it off straight away. Really great guy. Really, I don't know, you sometimes meet people and you're friends straight away. We got on great straight away. And he is section hiking the trail. He's nearly finished it. He wants to finish in that bit in the park in New York, so he can walk through it. Was going to walk through it with his mother and his father. Unfortunately, his father passed last year, but he'll be doing it later this year, hopefully, when he completes this little section he's doing now. He'll be doing that later this year. So he was there with his wife, Paddy, who was supporting him through this last 90 miles before that very last, say, couple of hundred yards through the park in New York. And we had a really nice time. Went for pizza and beers. I mean, how bad could that be? And to be honest with you, what was supposed to be a weekend of rest, and it was a weekend of rest, but it was, I normally when I rest, I don't really see anybody. I just put my feet up, watch a bit of TV, but meeting nice people, how bad can that be? And getting the opportunity to give my opinion if somebody asks for it, and get my opportunity to meet people I've interviewed before who are so kind they want to host me in their house, and getting to meet old friends, also a wonderful thing. So it was a great weekend, but I was ready to go hiking again on Monday morning. So let's hear how that turned out. Day 70, Daleville, mile 729.7 to Boblett's Shelter, mile 748.2, an 18.5 mile day. The others had gone, Ugg, Cushy and Robin, who we'd been hiking with the last couple of days, and Trigger went into Roanoke. And we met up again because I was right by the trail in Daleville, or Troutville, I think it is. We met up at 7:45 in the morning and headed off. Ugg had already gone ahead, and we walked straight into his video up the hill. He does a lot of videoing and puts these little films out on YouTube. And we just joined him up there. We went past I-81 through the fields. I remember this last time. not particularly this part of it, but walking through fields, it seems so incongruous to have a motorway running past or an interstate running past, and the noise just gets me. I don't know what it is. I don't know why it is, but I feel really, really uncomfortable. But eventually we headed off and we went back into the woods, and you feel so much more comfortable there. People have asked me how I feel about this compared to last time. I am just so comfortable in the woods. I don't feel at all out of place. Not that this is where I should be living the rest of my life, but I feel no discomfort or worry in the woods at all. The first 5 miles of the hike were uphill, but that break had done me real good. And so when I reached the top, I was sweaty, but otherwise sort of fine. We've managed our hike really well, so that we missed bad weather at the weekend, which was what we'd had. Saturday and Sunday was not good weather either day. But Monday it arrived nice and bright, and it was absolutely beautiful. But then we'd been hiking for, I don't know how long it was, quite a while actually, and Cushy asked the question, and this is what's been making me think about tempting fate. She said, what percentage chance do you give yourself of finishing? Now, I'm not the world's shyest person, and I'm not the most modest person, but I thought to myself, well, I think I've got a 90% chance of finishing, maybe even 95% chance of finishing, because I've got over some of those tough miles. There are still tons of tough miles to come. So anybody can be knocked off of this by an injury. But really, if you feel comfortable doing this, then I know how to do it now. I know how to walk in the woods. I know how to minimise the impact of my knees, and I just know how to do it. And so I felt quite comfortable in saying 90%. I could have said 95. Trigger gave himself the same number, although he said early in the trail he was really nervous or worried about finishing because he didn't think he would finish necessarily. He was having a few bad days, but he now felt 90%. Cushy felt 90%. And I think now I also said something like 90% as well. So we felt we were pretty confident of finishing. And the last 7 miles to shelter was just a gentle curve up and then down again. So it was a pretty good day's hiking. Hiking in Virginia does give you the opportunity to do some long miles. Ugg is constantly talking about doing a marathon, 26.2 miles, which I do not fancy in the least. But we decided 18.5 miles. We'd actually planned, we wanted to get to Glasgow in Virginia, which was about 56 miles away. I'd originally booked for Thursday, but Cushy suggested we try doing it in 3 days, which is 3 long, long days. So, but the weather was good, so we knew it was okay. And so that last 7 miles to shelter, they say they were gentle curve up, then down again. It's never flat. It's never, there's never going to be no hills. So when you suddenly go down the bottom of a descent, you're going up again soon after. But it's fine. It works out great. Unfortunately, Boblet's shelter sucked as far as providing camp spots, and I pitched my tent at a really bad angle, which I paid for. And the following morning, I was piled in a heap at the bottom of my tent, and I was uncomfortable all night long, and it didn't work out. But it had been a really good day, so that was day number 70. Day 71, Boblet's shelter, mile 748.2, to Apple Orchard Falls Trail, which is a strange place to stop, mile 769.3, which makes it a 21.1 mile day and our longest day. Cushy, who does like working out the slack packing, came up with a slack packing opportunity, as my old friend T-Bird used to say. The idea was we were going to walk 3 miles. We're going to be met by somebody from Stanimals 328 Hostel in Glasgow. Then we were going to give them our gear, or most of our gear, and keep just the gear we wanted to hike with. So we were basically going to empty out our packs, put them into sacks. They would take them back to the Stanimals 328 Hostel in Glasgow. And then we'd be picked up 18 miles later, because did the 3 miles originally, and that was the nearest road. So we did 3 miles without full kit, and then 18 miles without. And then they were going to pick us up, as I say, and then drive us down to Glasgow, and then the next morning take us back up there. Then we'd walk into Glasgow, which would have been great. I'd gathered from Cushy her shin splints were still hurting, and by the time I got there, she was in tears. And she just knew there was something wrong, and she decided she was going to go into an urgent care centre, and she did that. That was the way in which she was going to address it and try to work out what it was like, and if it was shin splints or if it was even a stress fracture. She'd made the fatal error of reading in the night and looking what her symptoms were suggesting, and she thought perhaps there was some sort of a stress fracture to her leg, and that worried her, obviously, and she didn't want to make those worse. So we put all our stuff in the car. We were all shaken by that because, only the day before we were talking about the percentage chances of getting there, and it was really put a downer on everybody's day, I'm sure. And so much so, I stupidly, I think probably because I saw Cush's poles there, I put my poles in the car and then watched them drive away. So I had no poles at all, which is not very clever. I did that once before on my first trip as well. So, these things, what goes around comes around, I guess. So I had to walk the day without my poles, and I really don't like doing that. But I got to tell you, I was so much better on the downhills. I don't know whether it's because I concentrated more or what it was, but even Trigger couldn't keep up with me. He normally is the fastest hiker, and I was pulling ahead of Trigger, and whenever we were going for a downhill, we said, you go first, and I was just skipping down there. It was kind of weird, actually. I did struggle a bit on the ups, because when you're doing these quite tough ups, I really dig my poles in and really pull myself up virtually. And obviously, having a lighter pack, that really, really did help. But it was a really good day's hiking. In fact, the weather was good, nice and sunny as well, and there was one climb. It was a bad climb, actually. It was about 2,500 feet over about 4.6 miles, so quite an intense climb. And it was near the end of the day. And even though we're on a lighter pack, near the end of the day, you do not want to do a 2,500 foot climb over 4.6 miles. But of course, we had to do it. We also saw a black snake. I know that's not terribly exciting for anybody, but when you haven't seen any wildlife at all, I did see a garter snake last week sometime. To see a black snake was about 4 foot long, so it was quite a substantial one and quite a fat one as well. That was something to see. Then we got to this place called Apple Orchard Falls Trail, which led us up to a parking lot. It's just a small trail up to a parking lot on the Blue Ridge Parkway, where we were supposed to be met by this guy called Lee at 5 o'clock. I'd estimated we'd be there at 5. We were there at 4 minutes to 5. Pretty impressive estimating skills. And he didn't turn up till 5:30, by which time it had started raining. I was not happy, I've got to tell you, but, what can you do? And, these guys are working their asses off, so what can I say? And that evening we got to Glasgow, went out into I think it's called Scotto's, the restaurant there, had spaghetti and that, so it's quite decent food there, quite enjoyable. And I kind of like I like that place. I really did like Stanimals. I found it very comfortable. So we were looking forward to coming back in the next day. But obviously we were sad about Cushy. She was there for that night, but she then made a plan. She was going to hire a car, and she was going to help slack pack us around a few more days. So we'll see how that works out as well. So that is the end of day number 71. Day 72, Apple Orchard Falls Trail, mile 769.3 to Trailhead Parking near Glasgow, Virginia. Mile 786.6, 17.3 miles day. We left about 8 o'clock, driven back to where we'd been picked up the previous day, and it's quite a drive actually, but we got there and we were looking at the mountains we had coming, and we saw this kind of satellite antenna in the distance on the top of a ridge, and our driver said, "You don't go past that." Well, he was wrong. We did, and We were kind of sad. It was just the three of us. Cushy wasn't with us anymore, and we didn't know when or whether she'd be coming back. There will be an update on that in a minute, by the way. There was another big uphill start, but we soon got over it, and we got to the ridge, and there was this satellite antenna. There was an amazing view to the left, and the satellite was to our right. Satellite antenna was to right. Big sort of globe thing. And it seemed so innocuous to see this great view, and then this, I don't know what it was actually, maybe it was a weather satellite, I'm not really sure. And we hiked along the ridge. It was beautiful. There were rhododendrons out. I mean, they really are bursting out, and a lot of these forest flowers are coming out, wild forest flowers are coming out. Mountain laurel is starting to show. That's one of my favourite of the flowers. And then we went under this thing called the guillotine. You're going on this ledge, and there are these rocky outcrops, and you step up and step down. And then we went through these two quite close together, big rocks, with one rock sitting above it as you have to go underneath this thing. It's called the guillotine. It's a great looking thing. And because Cushy wasn't there, she actually does a great thing for local schools in New Hampshire. She gives them questions, and she records them and asks where she is and so on, and gives them informational stuff. And she asked Ugg if he would do the same sort of thing for her. And I filmed Ugg doing this instructional video on a burl, which is this kind of nodule that comes out of a tree. And he explained it really well. It was interesting for me, to be honest with you. And there were a lot of rocks, as I say, on this ridge, but also there was this step up into the kind of this balustrade where you could take these 4 or 5 steps up. Then there was this almost like a patio you stand on, and a brick wall in front of you where you looked out on this magnificent view ahead of you on the valley down below. So it was just one of those really good days. And when we were coming down towards Glasgow, we started moving because we said we'd be there by 4. And we dallied a bit, and we had about 2.8 miles to go to get over the James River footbridge. And we started hammering down the path, and I really enjoyed it. And I think everybody enjoyed this hike today, except for the fact, obviously, that Cushy wasn't there. And we got there, and this guy Lee came to pick us up, and I was getting kind of nervous now. And the reason I was getting nervous because my change of gear had arrived. I'd asked Diane to send me out my new Z-Pax Art Blast pack, my old Catabatic Gear 30-degree sleeping quilt, and I was going to send back my Osprey pack and my 20-degree bag because it was getting really hot in that. So the 30-degree bag seemed to make a lot of sense. We went out to Scotto's for the second night. I had a 12-inch meat lover's pizza, and I had loads of water and a beer. And that really, my stomach was solid. Oh, it's really uncomfortable. And I think it was partly to do with the nerves because I got kind of anxiety about getting rid of enough gear to fit into the new Z-Pax pack. And the more and more I looked, the more and more I realised I could do without. And it's amazing when you've got to fit a relatively small amount into a smaller area, how you do it. I've ended up now, I sent back several tops, several pairs of socks. I've now just got 2 sets of socks, which is liners and socks. I've got 1 change of socks, 2 pairs of underpants. I've only got 1 pair of pants, which I've had all the whole time, and 1 shirt. And I've got a base layer of a shirt and leggings. That's really in case I get wet one day, which happens most days, and so I can get into something dry and warm afterwards. So I eventually got everything into my Z-Pax, and I was very happy with it because the change in weight was dramatic. In fact, my pack I've been carrying was about 35 pounds with food and water. This, when I checked it, actually the next day, I checked it, was 27 pounds of food and water. So my base weight is probably between 17 and 20 pounds. I'm really happy with that. But let me tell you about what happened on day 73 in a moment. Day 73 Trailhead parking near Glasgow, Virginia, mile 786.6, to Punch Bowl Overlook, mile 797.6, only an 11-mile day. This was another day that didn't work out as planned. I got up and, as I mentioned, I weighed my pack by putting it on my back, standing on the scales, getting that weight, and then taking the pack off and getting my weight afterwards. It's quite simple, really. And I was delighted. It felt like I was slack packing anyway. It was only 27 pounds and seemed about 8 pounds lighter than what I've been carrying before. What happened then wasn't a good idea. I weighed his pack, and his was 44 pounds. We've been saying for some time he's way overpacked food. And, you know, as soon as he realised it was 44 pounds, it really seemed to get him down. And it would come back to haunt us a little bit later in the day. But knowing what your pack is, for me, was delighted. I was delighted, but he really wasn't delighted at all. Before I left, this young girl we've met on the trail is she's Filipino-American, Dodger Dog. She's a funny girl. And she mentioned a guy called Joker who wanted to catch up with me. And it was something to do with Joker and his mum, Brenda. So I thought I'd let Joker speak for himself. So here is Joker. Right, I'm sitting outside at Shenandoahs. I've just met a young man called Joker. I've been here 2 days, and he hasn't said hello to me yet. But I knew, because of a young lady called Dodger Dog, that he was influenced in some way by the show, or his mother was. So he wants to say hi to his mum anyway. And tell us about what she thought of the show then. What she thought about your hike.
Hey, yeah, my mom was listening to your podcast before I got on the trail, and it really helped her calm down about the trail and let me come out and feel more comfortable about it.
So I can't tell her about all the drugs and the falls and all that sort of thing.
Oh yeah, definitely keep that quiet.
Yeah, we won't do that then. Yeah. So let's. How's your feeling about it? Are you feeling pretty relaxed and comfortable about the trail?
Yeah, I'm loving it out here.
Are you
having the time of my life?
Feel nice and safe?
Yeah.
That's good. Well, say something to your mum and tell her you love her and embarrass yourself in front of everybody.
Hi, Mom. I'll be home soon. I'm top of Virginia-ish, about the middle. I love you.
Very cool. Very cool indeed. Nice to meet you anyway.
Nice to meet you.
Cheers. How nice. And happy Mother's Day, Brenda. He was kind of nervous and he didn't approach me at all. So I went up and introduced myself and I said, let's record. So he was happy to do it. So it's very nice. So Trigger and I set out. We were driven back to the trailhead and Trigger and I set out and we didn't see Ugg, well, for a really long time actually. It was a glorious, gentle and flat start, then a long climb of nearly 2,500 feet in about 5 miles. And at the top we saw Joker and Dodger Dog and Joker's buddy. And of course, Dodger Dog didn't want to be left out. She wanted to wish her mum a happy Mother's Day, so I let her do it. Okay, I'm standing here with a young lady called Christina, whose other name is Dodger Dog, because she left the trail to go and see a Dodgers match, which is kind of weird. And she has a special request. She wants to wish somebody, I'm guessing her mother, happy Mother's Day. So here, Dodger Dog, don't lean forward.
I won't. Hi, Mommy. It's Christina. Happy Mother's Day. That's it.
Is that it? That's what you want to say to her?
Yeah, I mean, I'm all
You don't
right.
want to tell her you love her or anything like that?
Oh, yeah, I love you. Thanks for always letting me go out here by myself. Really? I'm all right.
And she's safe. She's with a couple of responsible young men who are looking after her. All right? Thanks a lot.
I don't need looking after.
Oh, God. Thank you. You know me. I like to please. So we got a text from Cushy when we were near the top that Ugg was going to be meeting her at Punch Bowl Overlook. That didn't fit into our plans at all. That was an 11-mile hike only, and we couldn't really understand. But other than we were concerned about Ugg, we didn't think he was very positive that morning. And so I talked to Trigger about the possibility of Devil's Backbone Brewery, because Cushy had mentioned this before. It'd be a nice thing to do and go and hang out here. So we decided to go for it. So Trigger and I went down to within about half a mile of the meeting place, where Ugg said he'd be there by 2 o'clock. And we went into the Punch Bowl shelter, had a bit of lunch, met a couple of people there, and hung out for a little while before we went down. And so Cushy was there. She bought some beers and some sodas. She's a good girl. She really is. She knows what we like. And Ugg turned up soon after. He's just down about his pack, I think, and he's going to resolve his pack issues, and he's going to slack with Cushy and with Trigger and I for the next few days while he works out his pack. We're now based in the Devil's Backbone Brewery, because after she'd picked us up, we drove back to Glasgow for some chores. I had to send out my stuff back to Diane. So I mailed out a very much heavier box with all my stuff I was sending back. And Cushy had to pick up a package that she'd been sent as well. So we did those chores, went back to Scotto's for a third time, had a bit of food there, and then we drove to Devil's Backbone. And I tell you what, this is some place, and it's difficult to describe it to you, really. It's a great setup as a brewery. There's a restaurant here, there's bathhouses, and right at the back there's a bunch of trees, and we can camp in those trees. And there must be about 20 tents and hammocks set up. So we're set now. Cushy's going to be slack packing us for about 2 or 3 days, so it's all good, I tell you. Now I wanted to let Cushy describe to you what's happened and how she is right now. So let's listen to Cushy. Okay, I'm at Devil's Backbone Brewery, and Cushy and I are sitting we're sitting on a road at the moment.
On the hot top.
That's right, yeah, it's kind of classy. There's a little tent city in front of us, and I'll explain how we got there later. But Cushy, you've had a tough couple of days. I'm just looking at your feet. They look awful, by the way.
That one? There's no nail polish on those toes.
No, we haven't been hiking with Cushy for a couple of days. So tell us what's been going on with you.
I have been having shin splint issues, and last week they really started kicking up. And then I had a terrible night's sleep as a result one night because I was just in so much throbbing pain, and woke up the next morning to hike out 3 miles. And
you knew you were in trouble then.
Well,
didn't
and
you
you saw me at the end of that. I was just a puddle of tears.
Yep.
So my first tears on the trail, and it was due to incredible. My leg felt like it was on fire.
Oh my gosh! So what? So when you decided then after about 3 hours.
3 miles.
3 miles, rather.
Yep.
We were going to be, our kit was going to be picked up, or we were going to slack pack some of that day, weren't we?
Exactly.
So, because you had discovered our slack packing opportunity, as a friend of mine says.
I'm good at finding those.
You are very good at finding those. So we had this slack packing opportunity. We carried on, but you stopped. So what did you do then? So
the driver that was going to pick us up, I decided to go into town with him and take that opportunity instead of push on the next 18 miles, which would have been my next out. And he took me to urgent care, and I got an x-ray. And it did not show any damage on my tibia. I sent the x-rays home to my orthopedist and my physical therapist, and my physical therapist thinks that it's tendon, muscular, fascial related, and my orthopedist is not so sure. But we're going to give it a week of rest, and I've decided that I'm going to stay close to the trail, close to my trail family. It's easy. It's easy to fall back into home routines really quickly, and I'm afraid if I go home to rest for this next week, I'm going to lose my incredible enthusiasm that I have for the trail, because my head is so in this game right now. I'm so psychologically ready to be out on this trail. I said to Trigger the other day that you're the glue to certainly our family, but also for a lot of the hikers out there. You are the social secretary for everybody, aren't you? In that you always know who's where and who's doing what, and you always care about them. So, for you to give up would be a terrible thing for us all. And so, you've got to get this right. Now, she's also agreed to slack pack us for a couple of days. Happy days. Yes, I did. I got a car so that I wouldn't be just a slave to shuttle services. I figured it was worth. And we've found this opportunity for camping this week at this beautiful location at Devil's Backbone. So it kind of offsets the price of my car rental by not having to think about hotel costs this week. Yeah, and I just hope. So, what
what do you think is going to happen next? What are you expecting to happen next?
Well, I have a wonderful gift from my physical therapist's office. One of them is coming down to Virginia this week anyway, so I'm going to go drive.
Trail Magic.
It's the best Trail Angel.
The trail provides.
Yes. So I'm going to go meet with this physical therapist, and she's going to give me treatment. She is licensed in Virginia as well because she actually used to work in Virginia before she moved to New Hampshire. So I'm going to take care of that on Saturday or Sunday. And I don't have a real deadline for getting back on the trail. I'm just going to continue to listen to my body better than I have. I've been pushing because I keep thinking that I can, but just because I can doesn't mean I should, right? We've talked about that a lot.
We've had that conversation. Yeah,
we have.
funny.
Just because I can do 20 miles, just because I can push through the pain, just because all those things doesn't mean I should be doing that if I really want to succeed at this, and I do desperately want to succeed.
I know you do, and we want you to as well. We want you to be back healthy. So the current sort of plan is for you to try to get started again once we get to Waynesboro and start in the
Shenandoahs. And then I will make up this section after I do Katahdin. Cool. I'll come back because this area in the fall is going to be gorgeous too.
Yes, I'm sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
It'll be a wonderful area. Virginia's my favorite state so far, so why wouldn't I want to come back here and spend more time?
You really want to go to New Hampshire, don't you?
I can't wait to get to New Hampshire. I can't wait.
I'm sure. Well, look,
I really want to get there by foot. I don't want to go there in a car.
Yeah. Well, we all wish you well, obviously.
Thank you so much.
And I'm sure it's all going to work out because good things happen to good people.
Oh, thank you, Steve. Oh, Mighty Blue.
Oh. So, really, that's it. She really is the glue that keeps us all together. And I guess it's a warning against tempting fate. But I hope they're all going to be hiking together again soon. I wish her well, obviously, and we wish Ugg well. Hopefully, it'll all be resolved in a couple of days' time. We're going to be heading north together into the Shenandoahs. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. I'll see you next time.